So then, since it is 6:30, we'll start this Zoom meeting of the Jericho Selectboard at 6:30. And as always, we start with public to be heard, which are for items that are not on the agenda. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to something that is not on the agenda?
I do.
All right, Brian, nice to see you. We haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick note, snow's coming. And last spring was the worst I've ever seen in my whole life of snow plowing gravel off of the road onto the shoulder. You know, I live on Plains Ride, and it's a number of times when the ground was not frozen and the plow driver just dropped the blade and hit the gas, and truckloads and truckloads of gravel were thrown onto the lawns and the shoulder. So, in my opinion, this is the time of year to train plow drivers. I think maybe you have some novices or something.
I think there was some fairly new ones, a new one or so last year. And so we're going to have new ones again this year. So yes, that's a good idea.
Gravel's
what are you saying exactly, Brian, then? That they should be told or instructed to do? I'm just trying to be clear.
Well, I'm not going to tell them how to run but if you talk to plow drivers, when the ground's not frozen, they drop the blade and then nudge it up. So it's actually off the ground. And then they hit the gas.
Okay, I get it. All right. Yep.
So just wanted to put in a word before it was too late.
I know. Maybe we'll have a winter that actually has hard ground rather than wet and weird.
Well, we can certainly follow up with that, pass that word on, and I know Paula's making herself a mental note, and I am as well, and we'll pass that on to the crew. Thank you.
Thanks for your help.
Yeah, all of us do that. Thank you. Are there any other people wishing to speak to public to be heard before we move on to the agenda? If not, we have changed the agenda. Bradley Malouin, is that how it's pronounced? We're postponing his review and appointment until October, one of the October meetings. So we will then move on to review and consider appointing Justin Willis to the DRB with the term expiring March 2024. And we certainly appreciate Mr. Willis from being so patient last time while we had a very long meeting, and then he didn't get to he had to leave before we got to him.
You laugh, but it wasn't too funny because he was there a long time.
I know. Well, you see, I believe Mr. Willis is pretty familiar with DRB issues and stuff, considering his background.
I am, yeah. Yeah.
In fact, if I'm not mistaken, you're the name that was on my checks to for the septic at our house.
There you go. Yeah, I've covered a lot of ground.
So could you briefly say for the minutes a little bit about your background, just a very bit, so
sure.
that thank you.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. Justin Willis. Before coming to Jericho, well, I lived in Richmond over 40 years. I've been a landowner in Jericho since 1999. Been a homeowner since 2012. I have an extended family connection here. My sister and nephew own the Jericho Center Country Store. I get free coffee once in a while. It's a good thing. I've been I've been licensed by the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources for in different types of certifications and licensing for over 30 years, including water, wastewater systems. That varies anywhere from preparing small subdivision plans, but primarily designing replacement wastewater systems, water supplies. And since COVID, my primary scope of work is ADUs. That's almost all I do now. And with a sprinkling of failed systems. I get called every day for that. So, but that's a good thing. I prefer to do that. I've been on a committee, a technical advisory committee with the state of Vermont for over 20 years. And I just retired from that voluntarily. And so suddenly I have a little free time now. I'm taking it up again with something else. So this will be, but not as much. So I have, and I have a background in planning and zoning. I've been in Richmond. I've been on zoning boards, planning commissions, appeared before them dozens and dozens of times. But one of the reasons I'm thinking of I think I can contribute to the DRB. I know they need experienced people with a diverse background. And I'm getting at a stage with my scope of work where I don't worry as much about having to refute myself from any hearings. I've only got one that I can recall right now where I'm working on basically a plan to preserve a farm in Jericho right now. Everybody knows about it, but we're wrapping that up, I think, next month. So other than that, I think I can be a help.
Yeah, based on what you helped here, I mean, that's a good background for the DRB. I mean, we don't often get openings on the DRB, which is useful for institutional memory. But I did get my old DRB questions out. One of the ones we like to ask, no matter the kind of experience people have had, is, because the DRB can involve your friends and neighbors, are you able to set aside that and apply the rules fairly against them? Absolutely.
And it helps to have good staff support that basically does a lot of the pre decision making, so to speak, or they do a lot of the fact checking up front, and then we basically would corroborate that. So, but yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, because that's an important part.
I get people asking me all the time about getting variances, and I'm pretty frank with them about the statute, that it's strictly interpreted. It's hard to get. So
right.
This is an example.
All right, thank you. Do you have any questions, Eric, that you'd like to have answered for the record?
No, I will admit the DRB is, I have the least amount of experience working with them. So I like the fact that Mr. Willis is coming in with experience. And I mean, it sounds exactly like what we need, but I will admit I don't have a lot of experience with the DRB.
And it sounds like at some point, kind of apart from this DRB appointment, you might have some notion about capacity in zoning office and in the planning. And if at some point, again, this is a little bit off topic, but if at some point we do enter into this study, Justin, about our capacity in the planning or in the zoning department that we have in the town of Jericho, you might actually have an opinion on one or two of those things based on your experience.
I have opinions. I mean, it goes back to their studies back. My wife used to be zoning administrator there back in late 80s, early 90s, and there were studies about on-site wastewater versus setting up a municipal system. And I see we've kind of circled back and are doing that again. But I have a lot of good ideas. I mean, the committee that I've been on in the state, the benefit of that is being surrounded by lots of experts, scientists, planners. I picked up a lot of good information over the years and developed an opinion about how to get things done. And I'm aware of the need to tweak the zoning in the over by the Union Bank grocery store. I understand that, and I was kind of aware that might be a problem before it even erupted or came about.
Great, thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, is everyone comfortable enough with the questioning so far to be able to appoint Mr. Willis to the DRV to a term that expires in March of 2024?
I did have a question about.
Oh, go ahead.
Now that you mentioned that, I did have a question. Why are we only approving him for 5-6 months?
Because that's the term that he's filling.
Okay, so somebody.
Are
they typically 1 year or 3 or?
They're typically 3 years. It's just he's filling a term from someone else that is stepping down. So we put him in that spot, and then he'll get reappointed in 2024 if he so chooses.
All right, so it's low risk. If he's terrible, we're only stuck with him for 6 months.
That's what Chris said. That's what Chris said.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, I'm on probation.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead, Wade.
So I make a motion we approve the appointment of Justin Willis to the DRB for a term of 6 months or for a term ending March, whatever that term is.
2024.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you, Justin, for volunteering to serve on the DRB. That's always a tough one to do.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. That's postponed. All right. We are now moving towards the errors and omission certificate PVR. Listers. So
I had Lori put a note in here just so for you guys for your reference because she couldn't make it tonight. So she said they're pretty standard.
What happens to the hard copy of Lori's note in this document? Does it get filed somewhere? Because
yes. So
what I noticed was her note was neither dated nor signed. So I kind of thought it was from Lori, but I wasn't positive, and it may just be
because of the form itself.
Yes.
Yeah, on the back of the form, there's her signature.
Right. That's how I kind of figured. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll need you guys to come in either if we can have you and Eric stop by the office to sign that would be great.
Okay.
Well, maybe October. Beginning of October, I can come and sign everything.
So what should the motion read then? Or do we just need to come in and sign?
I think you just need to approve the errors and omissions certificate.
Okay, I make a motion we approve the errors and omissions certificate submitted by Lori. I don't know what else to include in the motion. In regards to the Underhill Jericho Fire Department property.
Yes. Yep.
That's it.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. We are now going to consider the town planner assistance with David White in terms of the zoning for the character-based form zoning tweaks. And based on what was discussed last time, it's really just in time rather than in funding. Last time was for funding because it was for the town plan to continue, but because he was already over budget on the town plan, but he said he has currently 50 hours of time budgeted. We just need to approve extending his term of assistance till March of 2024.
I'll make a motion to extend the deadline to March of 2024.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Now this one is a little tricky. I can't remember if Wayne was on the board the last time we had it because it's only the second time that it's come up during I've been on the board, and that's considering an appointment to fill a vacancy on the Mount Mansfield Unified Union School District, and it's from Edye Graning, who is the chair of the school board. And normally the select board has no statutory authority with the school board except for this particular item. And like I said, it's only the second time that this has happened since I've been on the board. And basically it is their board and they've already tentatively approved her. So they're just looking for a confirmation from us saying, based on the information we have and the fact that they've already pre-approved her, she's a viable candidate, and we just concur, basically.
And it's now through March 2024? Because if you turn the other side of that thing over, it says, and then there's something in parentheses and possibly beyond, but I would think that the beyond is then, that's a whole different thing. That's out of our purview.
Yeah. This is until the election of March 2024. Again, it's just another slot because they have 2 openings now on the board from Jericho.
Yes. So I make a motion. We appoint Susan Lilitz in the interim position on the MMU school board through March 2024.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I'm a little surprised at how often March 2024 has come up at our September 24th meeting. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's a little odd.
That's right.
Every single thing has it.
Gee, I wonder why. All right, now we're going to talk about Watershed, and it's the intent of application for that's a 3-950 application for Jericho subdivision. Just to give a little background, this is started a while ago when Todd was still here. The original preliminary work that had to be done because there's 2 separate systems. You had to do a initial NOI, notice of intent, and now this is saying, yeah, we've got that part. Now we're going to do something, and this is what we hope to do. And Watershed Consulting is hoping to do the full NOI and EFA submission, the supplemental permitting, and 100% construction document package. And Todd had started this before he left with Andres from Watershed. And when it was passed on to Catherine to follow through on it, I sat on the very first one. And one of the reasons the town is involved is because it's a 3-acre stormwater permit. And those are town roads within the Jericho East subdivision. So that means we are part of the impervious surface of that 3 acres. And so the town has a certain responsibility to help in this process because we will end up having whatever percentage of the impervious surface that is calculated to be, it's that will be the town's contribution.
So
is that
would
like-
you say that one more time specifically? What will the town's contribution be?
What, after all the costs are allocated and, grants are, obviously we're going to, that people will want to, this was started with a grant, and now there is additional funding required. I don't know if this is in between grants or what, but it started with a grant, and Wayne had, and then Todd had started that. And then as things go on, there will be, when it comes to the construction document package, obviously there's going to be a number associated with that. And by the time we figure out what that is, what the actual town percentage of road coverage is to fit within that 3 acres, then that will be our percentage of what the town will have to pay. And obviously we will continue to look for grants then to supplement the cost.
Okay. That helps. I
what are
thought
approving?
maybe I missed a number, and I didn't hear you say a number because we don't have one yet.
No.
Well, there's a
No.
number in the document.
That's for the current package of activity, which is what's on the watershed. To the proposed scope of work is to the full notice of intent and the EFA submission. Let's see, what was the EFA now? That's the engineering feasibility analysis. And then task 2 is the supplemental permitting, because there are other state, federal Act 250 and other local permits for that. And then task 3 is the 100% construction document package. And that is a deliverable for the plans and details. And that's going to cost $13,000 and
500.
$500.
And so are you saying that whole cost is not necessarily just the town of Jericho's?
We're talking about when a construction comes. I mean, because we're part of that whole stormwater package, because this is for stormwater 3-acre parcel. And so they look at the entire impervious surface, which includes roads, as well as, the driveways, as well as the home lots and things like that are impervious. And so whatever the town portion of the road is above to the whole 3 acres will be, as I understand it, will be what the town will be responsible for. 3. Because 3 acres is a lot of impervious surface.
Yeah.
But this is both sides of Jericho East to a certain point where it's developed. And then after that, there was discussion of how that was going to be handled, whether that's going to be a separate add-on for Jericho East people in the future or not. Nobody knows.
So as we consider, the fire chief has talked to us about, really leaning on us to consider, as these new developments go in, that we come up with a way to charge some sort of impact fee or something, and then we take over the roads. So does that mean this is like an additional thing? So because we own the roads, then we're responsible for the 3-acre?
We are responsible for a percentage of that 3 acre, whatever your road site,
right. But if we didn't take over the roads and we said no, then they would be responsible for it?
Yes.
Ugh.
A lot of subdivisions, that is their responsibility. And a lot of towns, like Williston, had to, because they happen to have, they have the extra penny or 2 cents or whatever. They have money. So they started a fund for all the subdivisions in their town whose permits had expired, because the state is lots and lots of subdivisions had let their permits expire. And with all kinds of new rules for stormwater, which is what we got with our master stormwater plan, and lots of towns that did that, that meant that they needed to up their game. And so the town of Williston, for example, gave them low interest loans to be able to afford their stormwater updates and do the new whatever construction they had to do to meet the stormwater things. But that's basically how it is. The subdivision comes in and has to apply for a stormwater permit. And if they let it expire, or even when it comes time for renewal, they are responsible for any additional costs that it might be. But because this was one of the new rules, the 3 acre permit rules, that we're part of it at this point. So that is a thing about whether you take over roads or not take over roads.
Yeah, that's an additional thing, because I have been talking with John just a little bit about, how, is there a procedure, or how does it work for roads to be accepted by the town, and how many towns, including Jericho, and I think Underhill, kind of don't necessarily have a big superhighway for approval. I guess that's an easy way of putting it. But this is another one of those expenses. Once the town accepts that road, it's not merely plowing and paving. It's the stormwater related to that.
Exactly.
And, that's huge. So as we tiptoe forward to getting maybe some kind of procedure, some clarity on what are the requirements for development to have its road accepted, this is a huge piece of it that we need to walk into with our eyes wide open.
Make sure it's only 2.99 acres.
Well, they're dropping the acreage down as time goes on. but the key is we already do have impact fees for roads from subdivisions, but it's these are older roads, or because there used to be a whole series of impact fees that towns would assess when new construction went in for subdivisions and things like that. So, I mean, that's another reason to look at your impact fees. Then, if you're going to have to start paying, tens of thousands of dollars for stormwater, then it's just not putting some money into, a small amount into an impact fee. It needs to be a much bigger impact fee, so that you can build up that kind of reserve to cover your stormwater costs.
Yeah, there's clearly a lot about it I don't understand, so I appreciate the education on it. So that it's definitely good to keep in mind. Maybe I just need to read about it. But we have more than 3 acres of our own road. So is this something we do? Is that just built into our regular roads? How do these roads differ from Arbor Farm Road?
That's why we have the municipal road general permit and the hydrologically connected roads, and why we're working our way through those, because all these have to do with stormwater impact on the lake. And
I'm in full support of all of it. I just don't understand any of it.
Isn't it a portion of like Jericho East? It's 3 acres. So that's where the stormwaters come in. And then there's not a lot of them here in Jericho, is there?
For 3 acres, no.
Okay.
But for the roads, we have the general road permit. Because gravel roads, give sediment and, things like as phosphorus to the lake. So you're responsible for that. That's our responsibility for that kind of road. As for other ones, there was a discussion, and I don't know if it has ever, what the date on that was, but they were going to drop down to 1 acre for impervious surfaces. And I don't know what the date on that one is.
Yeah, I guess I'm sure there's a place I could go do some research, but I just don't understand then why these roads, which are now town roads, aren't covered under that other permit.
Because they have to update their stormwater permit to meet this requirement. And because I think it probably expired. I don't know. I came in for one meeting, and this is what I learned in one meeting.
Right.
But Catherine was, working through it, and now John has been working with Andres, and this is what it's like. The town only had one other one, and I believe that subdivision took care of itself because there wasn't. Not sure the roads were town roads. I don't know. I can't remember.
And normally, I'm asking another question because I have this sort of organizational lens I keep looking through. The responsibility for overseeing this, it sounds like Todd had something to do with it at the onset, but is this sort of a planning department thing, or is it a town administrator thing? It's not a zoning. I'm just trying to see what staff, if you're the town of Williston and if you've accepted all these permits, oversight of all these permits, what department of town government does that stuff?
I think I can't say for sure for Williston because they just gave out small grants, and the state is the one who gives you the permit. Gives you the state permit for your stormwater system, and you keep renewing it through the state. Other towns like South Burlington, which is even bigger and has more funding, they have a stormwater utility.
Oh, sure. Well, we're not in that league.
Yeah, and so that utility then takes care of all that kind of stuff, both for the town roads or whatever percent the town roads are within the subdivisions, as well as all the other things that require the stormwater permitting.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the answer to your question, Wayne, would be right now it's Linda just assisting with John, answering questions and stuff. But John's the one, I believe, really maintaining this.
Okay.
Because the other stuff comes through the road department with the municipal general road permit, or municipal road general road permit, or road general permit. I always want to switch my R's and G's.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we need a motion that says what?
That we consider funding Watershed Consulting on the 3-acre stormwater application.
And so that $13,500, that is the responsibility of who?
We're paying for it right now, as far as I know. Right? Yep. Yeah. That's what I thought. This is, and I'm sure, somebody's keeping track of how much the town has paid, but, because the town, I think Todd got the grant to start with. And I don't know if there was a match. I'm sure there was, because there's always matches. And then now we're doing this. And then eventually there'll be a larger grant to create a larger stormwater site on the Jericho East property.
Okay. Sounds like something we have to do. So given that, I will make a motion to approve the funding for the Watershed Consulting for the 3-acre stormwater.
I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
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 It's like we have our master stormwater plan, and we put that one underground at Packard Road, and that was all town.
Right.
Thankfully, there were grants. So you never know what.
Yeah, somehow we're going to have to build into impact fees anything over 3 acres. Your costs go up, or 3 acre of impervious surfaces.
Right.
Somehow that's got to be captured.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things like that we have to start looking at. Who knows how many other things that are coming down the pike. I mean, and if you're talking wastewater, who's going to run it? Things like that.
Yeah.
So many, just as an aside, so many of the things we've talked about over the last few months seem to indicate that we don't have the capacity that we need in the area of development or even sort of monitoring what we already have. And we're just in a real pickle. Every single meeting, it seems like we come up with some example of, it's not like, well, darn it, just do more work. No, we don't really have the capacity to do something.
Yeah, because it's because Todd knew so much, and people, over time, people, that was relied upon. Yeah. The other key is you have to remember that even though, say, the town is working its way through this wastewater project, the town does not have to own it or take care of it. It all depends. Because in this state of Vermont, the users pay, whether it's water or whether it's septic or sewage.
Yeah,
it's the users who pay.
Yep. Okay, so we're off of that one, I guess, for now.
Yeah, but I agree with you. That's why for years I've been trying to get a public works person because this is all public works. That falls under public works.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. To that point, and I think I mentioned this last meeting, how do we get that on a agenda?
I've wondered that too very recently about what does that, this NEMRIC study was, without any specifics to it, was going to help maybe cut through the fog a little bit. But it seems like we need to begin thinking about, we're almost at budget building season in another couple of weeks. Are we going to do something in the next fiscal year for some little part-time position or, whatever the thing is? Right. We need to start thinking in those terms, and maybe, people like Linda, who has all that great experience in St. Albans, or even David, they might, and even Justin might have an idea about, okay, here's the kind of thing you're talking about, here's the kind of position and that'll answer some of these concerns. I mean, I don't think this is the venue for figuring it out right now, but gosh, I think with budget season coming up, that's our window to try figuring it out a little bit.
Yeah, and I think I'm sorry.
I think we should have it on an agenda as a discussion point, not necessarily like we need to make a decision next select board meeting. Yes, go hire one, but like just have it on there so that we can, just get talking about it. I don't know what the candidate pool is. I don't know if people have in mind a full-time person. I don't know. There's so much I don't know about it, but they made it pretty clear in that planning commission presentation. I don't know, it's probably a year ago now. That was one of the strong recommendations that I happen to agree with in there, to hire somebody like that. I know there's a lot of debate about town manager and 5-person select board, and I don't understand enough about that, but I do think that with or without those two things, that thing is something that we could do. Yes. Right? Like 5-person select board, I don't even understand. I don't want to talk about it, but like, I don't even understand if we have the ability to throw it on the board ourselves, if you need a 15%, whatever. But no, that is something
the rule
we do
is
have.
You need 15% of the voters to give you a petition before you can talk about it.
Right.
Well, so I was going to bring that up at Selectboard Updates, but I'll just wait a minute, because Eric's point is, let's start putting some numbers. The thing is, I feel like an idiot, because I'm not sure what kind of position are we talking of, what are the role? Are we talking about an economic development person? Are we talking about a public works super? Those are two very different things. Right. And I don't know enough. I don't even know. I mean, I take at face value that Linda works 40 hours and she's busy 40 hours. Chris works 28 hours, whatever the number is, and he's busy 28 hours. I don't know if there's any wiggle room in their schedules or not. I assume not, but we just don't really know.
Right. And then Tyler is an engineer and is good for roads, but that's different than public works as well.
Yeah.
I'll put that on a future agenda, Eric, for you.
Yeah. As a discussion point, I think it'd be naive to just throw it on there and say, let's go hire one. But like, have it on there. Maybe people will notice it and come and give us some ideas and,
and I don't know
what the position might look like.
I don't know if, I know that, Rick McGuire's, working on, doing different town administrator positions and stuff, filling those slots. But I don't know if VLCT has anybody to talk about, staffing. What, how do we determine what we need
right.
when it comes to, do we need, public works? Do we need an economic development? Because the person with economic development is not going to know anything about stormwater necessarily, or things like that.
Right. That's what happens when you have three people on a select board, none of whom have masters of public administration. We're all kind of like trying to figure this out a little bit.
That's right. And I don't know if Rick has an idea because he comes from Williston.
If it had to do with rats, we could just ask you, Catherine, you know?
That's right. I tell you. All right.
Okay,
Now-
so we have some liquor licenses.
Yep.
Any discussion, or are you okay for motions?
I'm okay for motions.
Okay. I'm assuming all 5 of these are at the Mansfield Barn.
I believe so. It looked like it based on what was stamped.
So I'll make a motion for Griffin Riders LLC to serve alcohol at the Mansfield Barn on September 29th of 23 and October 7th of 23.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. And I'll make a motion to approve Waterfront Yogurt and Sandwich Company to serve alcohol at Mansfield Barn on October 13th, October 14th, and October 21st of 23.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. So now we are to select board updates. And since you had something to say, Wayne, you.
Yeah, I have a couple. I just wanted to get some clarity on this 3 to 5 member select board vote or whatever, what your preferences is. And again, my motivation is, I do think we need to transform, but you know, I'm just really struck by people across the political spectrum who are intrigued. I think it's symptomatic of people are a little frustrated that they're not getting what they want, whatever that is. But it really strikes me that because I've been in contact with people who don't hang out at town hall lately. I guess I'll just leave it like that. And there's some interest on that side of the equation too. And I'm just wondering, is this board if we're gonna entertain this idea, do we need the petition or not? Yes or no?
Yes, the charter says 15% of the voters must bring a petition to the select board before this is discussed. In fact, I think Charlotte is working its way through a petition thing like that as well. So it has to be a petition.
Doesn't our charter say that we could? I don't think we should, but doesn't our charter say that the 3 of us could just decide where we're going to do that?
I don't think so. I think it says 15% of the voters, and it has to be an Australian ballot vote.
Okay, so if I put the word out or maybe we should put the word out, either under the chair's name or John's name or somebody, or that if there is interest. I don't even know if we need to post this on Front Porch Forum. I'm just asking for clarity from you and Eric. And it sounds like the petition is the way it would have to go if those people wanted to do that.
Right. And my feeling is if people really want it, they need to do the work.
Okay.
Because it really needs to be by the people, and the people need to vote on it because that it really is their choice. Because the last, I was reading the minutes from last time when SJ talked about it, and I don't think she realized that this went once before, and there was a vote that was and voted the 5-member board down.
Yeah.
And so that's why it really has to, come through the process officially again,
And your point is, it's not that the 3 of us can decide to have this vote by everybody, because I think it would be stupid and anti-democratic for the 3 of us to make a decision like this. But,
absolutely.
But certainly putting it before voters is something that we need a petition. Okay, I just need clarification on that one. Eric, is that where you are too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. I think I'd love to find the charter that says it.
Well, in the policy book is a copy of our charter.
Ah,
You don't need to look it up now, but
yeah. I was just trying to find
words
it
in there made
online,
it
but
look like there was a little bit of wiggle room for the select board to, but again, I just want clarity. I don't think there's a huge tsunami of interest in this, but it is striking that there's people in different political spots who seem to think this is going to be the golden calf or something that's going to solve things. So
I know, and
I
then
do
other
remember
people
reading
have,
about it before a little bit, where the extra 2 members are on only 1-year terms, if I remember correctly. So you have your 3 select board members that are on their typical 3-year terms, but the extra 2 are on 1-year terms. That's when I first came on, there was a lot of discussion about it, and I remember looking it up, and I remember reading that.
Okay, and then Madam Chair, the other thing I wanted to bring up was about this. If you remember, at the end of the last town meeting, one resident expressed interest in ARPA funds for private water systems. We'd sort of nominally said, yeah, we'll meet with you, and we hadn't really done anything beyond that. And then if you recall, at one point I shared with the select board a chart that kind of outlined some of the things we might spend ARPA money on. And I had taken it upon myself to just throw $30,000 at this private water system thing. It was just my idea. Nobody weighed in on it. It was just, since that time, if you Front Porch Forum the other day, Robert DeVos brought this matter up again. I'd written him, I think I might have CC'd you, that I'd be, willing to meet with him. He would like to meet with all the select board, but there was a notion that, we might put a little bit of money in there and have people either apply or something. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about that, because we definitely want to respond to that before the next town meeting. We want to have had that
interest. He has been to the Planning Commission.
Yes.
He has sent letters to each individual planning committee member. I have been privy to some email discussion between him and Linda and Susan, because Susan responded to that as well. And he recognizes that there is funding from the state, like we've said over and over and over again, for this. In fact, it sounds like the small subdivision that he's part of has gotten funding through that.
Oh.
For some of this work. That was my take from one of the emails. The issue is we only have heard from him, and it's unclear whether he represents the homeowners association whose well it is.
Okay.
And that's an important distinction, because if it's his individual need to need assistance, there may be other assistance within the state
Sure.
Programs. Because,
but if it's a neighborhood thing, it may be slightly different. I mean, the whole thing is because it's a private water system, it just feels a little yucky. But I get his interest in him wanting to find some money. I understand that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But the key is we don't know if he's representing the whole community or himself, and which program would be good for him if it's his within the state system. And that's where we would be right now, because we have an awful lot of individuals who would like assistance with their own things, if that is the case. Where so how can we be fair with the funding when other homeowners associations have put in big money to, and it may be the difference in the size and the economics of the subdivision that they were able to do that. But there are other subdivisions that have to maintain their own wells. And then there are other lots and lots of individuals with our that maintain their own.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So
I'm just trying to assist one of our constituents And I haven't talked to him.
Exactly.
I haven't talked to him in 2 years, so it's not like we were just on the phone. But
I think that's a difficult.
if we had a letter from the Milo White neighborhood water system, and they said, we're looking at X amount of dollars in repairs, can you help us out? I mean, I don't even know we don't really have a process for dealing with this.
No, because as you said, how do we become fair? In fact, it was interesting last night because we're having a discussion, obviously, on S100 at the Regional Planning Commission, because there's a lot of studies based on that bill this off season, so that the legislature has it going into the 2024 session, Richmond was talking in that the idea is, when they were talking about the idea is that we may end up expanding what our village centers look like because of, not only were the old-fashioned historic village centers in the floodplains and in a lot of these towns, but in order to have more appropriate, more dense housing, we may need to adjust those village centers things. Well, Bard from Richmond was saying, he said, this is a real conundrum because they have septic, they have sewage capacity and water capacity within the village center, which is partially in the floodplain. And they have a spot where they could put new housing, but that's outside the current village center, but it would take $1 million or more just to get there.
Oh.
And so these are very expensive decisions.
Yeah.
I do think he does have a point in that we did agree at town meeting that we would hold a meeting to talk about that topic. So I do think that we should do that. I'll be very interested to see how many people show up. And I think that's how you answer Catherine's question of, is this something that he is personally concerned about, or is it as big as his little neighborhood? Is it as big as some of the other neighborhoods? I will say I was part of when I lived in the foothills before I bought this house, I was part of the Foothills Water District, Fire District 1 or whatever they call it. It was, I thought it was extremely expensive, and so I can understand where they're coming from. I think I was paying more for water there than I was paying in Burlington, which also had sewer, So yeah. I sort of get where some of and that one was well run, and it was big enough that it could deal with stuff and all that. So I can certainly understand it being challenging if it was a similar situation with only, maybe 10 or 12 houses, however many.
Yeah, I think it's a small one. It's a very small one.
So I can certainly sympathize a little bit, but I'm also with Catherine, so I'm certainly willing to talk about it. I don't know what we do. Like you said, oh, okay, you had an event and it cost you guys $20,000. I don't know what we can do about it, but we can certainly hear them out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm not necessarily advocating that because I don't know what the issues are there. I just know that there is some issues brought up. And I had said this notion once very informally, I think, to Eric, talking right across Catherine, who was, I think, busy signing some warrants or something, that, the 30,000 I had just arbitrarily grabbed out of the air was perhaps for some engineering study that would be required in order to apply for the big $1 billion loan, that kind of thing. I had no expectation it was actually going to fund any of the work, just sort of some of the ancillary stuff. Because how do you decide, okay, you get the money, you have 18 homes on your thing, and yet Joe Blow down the road, he and his dad share a well. Do they get money too? How do you figure that stuff out? So it sounds like the thing to do would be to agenda it, give it 20 minutes at a meeting, and then we can take it from there, I suppose. And then we will have fulfilled our promise to him that we will meet on it.
Yep. And maybe there's some really good ideas that come out of it,
Yeah. Okay, so Paula, did you get that down for you? There's two possible. Thank you. That's all I have for my updates. Oh, lastly, I did have an update very briefly about the commercial district. They're very disappointed, and they think connectivity is really important. It's in the town plan, and they thought that this was part of increasing connectivity in town. So I won't put any more words into their mouth other than that. Those are some of the words that I heard. They weren't all the words I heard, but those are some of them. So that's it for my report.
Yeah, might have some other words on that one, but not bad words. But yeah, a water district discussion. Okay,
that's it for me. Thank you.
Do you have anything, Eric?
No, I don't think I do. I did. Well, I guess I do a little bit. I did walk the land at 2 Railroad Circle with Karina, who's got some expertise in water, wetland stuff. Because if you remember, I think in my last update, the next step in figuring out what can happen at that property after having the test holes dug was to get some sort of assessment about the wetlands. And so I did reach out to Chris Flynn, and it's on me to set up some time for the two of us to just chat about how we go about doing that. But in the meantime, Susan from the JCDC reached out to Karina, and Karina agreed to meet there. So we checked it out a little bit, and so I got kind of an initial idea from her about how it might play out. And it seemed, again, this is not official. She wasn't paid for it. This is just something she was doing pro bono and helping educate. And John got there for a little bit of it too. And it's probably, there's some spots, basically what I took away is there's a few spots that are probably borderline. It's probably a class 1 wetland, which
class 1,
which, yeah.
That's the top of the line.
Then I meant the other one. I meant class 3. It was whatever the lowest designation.
Because when you said class 1, I was like, what?
What? Yeah. So
That was so cute.
Class 1 wetland.
So I guess I misspoke. I thought
so it's borderline.
Higher.
It's borderline class 3.
Borderline class 3, yes. Which apparently are not as big.
Right.
No. It wouldn't be as big of a deal. So
right,
but again, that's nothing official. But that is something that I've done since the last select board.
Okay. Appointments. Last night, one of the things we do in our September meeting is appoint or reappoint board members to various standing committees at the RPC. And turns out, and I don't know if the DEI committee is aware of this, but we have actually a Jericho resident who had signed up as a community member of the RPC's Equity Advisory Committee, and it's Melissa Heitkamp. And I hadn't, until we saw these appointments, didn't realize, because it's a very large committee. And she may be able to provide more direct equity information to the town DEI committee that's coming from the RPC. And in fact, as last night, the RPC passed its own equity statement, which is very different than, they wanted to do something different from all the other equity statements that have been written right now. And then the other thing from the RPC is that the state housing needs assessment was scheduled to be completed in 2025, but because of the housing crunch and the floods and stuff taking out even more homes, that's been pushed up to 2024. So it will be interesting to see what comes up from that state housing needs assessment. And so those are a couple of the biggies from of course, the RPC is also working through its ECOS plan, which is the equivalent of the regional plan for the RPC. Jericho Energy Task Force is holding a repair cafe on October 28th at the Jericho Community Center from 9 to 1. Currently, we are seeking volunteers to help with the repairs, but then we will start advertising for those who wish to attend and have things repaired. And that's where I am. I don't know if the town administrator has any updates.
I'm sure he does, but I don't know them.
And, oh yeah, because he wasn't going to be here till well after 8.
He was hoping to be on by 8, but
it's only 7:30.
whoa!
We may be done by
Magic.
then.
We are flying.
Well, the next on the agenda is you can since I'm not there, you can make a motion to, and nobody's there, make a motion to approve the warrants of 9/8 and 9/22 and then go in to sign them. That, you approve of the warrants.
I make a motion, we approve the warrants presented for 9/8/23 and 9/22/23.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yeah,
Thank
if you
all.
guys, you and Wayne, Eric, if you guys could stop in and just sign those, that would be great.
Sure.
This and that other thing. Yeah, there's
Yes.
2 things now. Yep.
Yep.
If I
I'll get
don't,
there.
can you just text me?
Yes.
I'll get there. And next is the minutes of 9/7. And on page, let's see, line 62, it's multiple studies are being conducted, not connected, to deal with housing. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff going to happen in the legislature this year related to that S-100 housing bill, all kinds of activity. 4 different studies came out of that.
What line was that, Catherine?
Line
62.
62. And then the only other one I had, and I do apologize, one of these days I'll break my old habit because for a long time I didn't have to do this. But Donna's correct. I should just send it to her. That this is line 567 that Eric motioned and Wayne seconded to exit executive session at 10:40. The motion passed 3-0. No action was taken. And then Wayne motioned, Eric seconded to adjourn at 10:41. Motion passed 3-0.
Okay, hold on, I'm lost. Can you say that again? Eric went into executive session at 9:44.
Then Eric motioned and Wayne seconded to exit executive session at 10:40. The motion passed 3-0 and no action was taken. And then Wayne motioned, Eric seconded to adjourn at 10:41. Motion passed 3-0.
And speaking of that, I'll make a motion to enter into executive session because premature disclosure of the information would be detrimental to the parties involved for reasons of personnel and legal.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.